Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we'll be talking about the spell Glibness. All right, this one worth every penny.
Glibness is nifty conceptually. I think the math doesn't check out. I think more often than not, you're wasting 8th level spell slot when you cast Glibness, but
8th level.
yeah,
For what? What do you get for this 8th level spell?
it's so easy. It's so simple. It doesn't have concentration on it. That's kind of nice. You take an action for an hour. Whenever you make a charisma check, only checks, not spell attack rolls, not other charisma rolls, just checks. You can replace whatever you roll with a 15. So you can now only roll 15 through 20. Most of the time it's 15. Additionally, they have this line that nothing can determine you're lying. So if you're in a zone of truth, give it the finger. If you are talking to God himself, he can't tell the difference between a truth and a lie from you. Will that matter ever? No. But the rest of the spell text sounds really appealing. I'm convinced it is a lie.
Let's see. The problem I have with it is, all right, the zone of truth thing. How often is that going to come up?
Never.
Whatever. But even the charisma thing. I mean, the classes that get this, bards and warlocks. Warlocks are charisma based, are they not? Yeah, and bards certainly are. If you're playing one of these two, you probably already have pretty high charisma.
I think is the ultimate problem with Glibness. I think you just nailed it right on the head.
Especially by the time you get up to where you're casting 8th level spells, I mean, you might even put some more points in there. You have a fancy hat or something, a magic hat that gives you charisma bonuses or whatever. I don't see this helping much.
Yeah, a big selling point that everyone liked to talk about a couple years ago, more than a couple years ago, basically whenever 5e was launching, was something called bounded accuracy. And that's a really fancy way of saying what isn't a real technical term at all, which was basically, let's take those really big numbers from 3rd edition and 4th edition, and let's just crunch them down. Let's make 5th edition have less of a big number range when we're talking about modifiers. And what that mechanically does to the system is give more weight to the d20. So more often than not, your outcomes are determined at random. More often than not, the roll matters more than the character choices you made along the way. Ultimately, I think for what is a largely casual game that appeals to people that want to see the big splashy moments, that want to have the really high highs and high lows, that's a really good thing. Glibness conceivably says you now have a plus 14 modifier, like a plus 1 to 14 modifier in your charisma checks for an 8th level spell slot. So it'd be really good if there were DC 35 skill checks, if there were DC 40 skill checks. The reality is that doesn't happen.
But it wouldn't be good. It doesn't give you plus 14. It just gives you a straight up 15, right?
So the reason it would be good in those circumstances is when like you just mentioned before, especially bards is the one I have the most problem with. Warlocks, I can see like, all right, maybe this is something you'd want every once in a while. Bards get expertise. So when we're looking at what bards will be making charisma check wise, assuming they're putting their performance, assuming they're putting their persuasion, their deception into their expertise, they have a +5 proficiency bonus whenever you can cast Glibness, at least. I think it's plus, let me double check. I think it's +5 at the moment, and it'll become +6 in 2 levels. So you're looking at already, okay, I'm getting with a +5 charisma. Let's just assume you've got it from either putting skill points into it or magic items and stuff, because you very likely want to be doing that as you level up as a bard. You're looking already to +10. Expertise in your skills are already a +15 because it doubles your proficiency bonus. Do you need ever to roll, do you ever need to roll higher than a 20 or at most a 25 on a charisma check? And the reality of D&D 5e is no. The reality is there are very few entities where you need to break a 25 for that to actually change the outcome of the spell. If there were more, if you had more instances where you needed to roll 30, 35, 40s, if there was a larger range of DCs where you needed consistently 15s or higher to succeed, this would be like, I no longer fail skill checks even in the high tiers. right now you never are failing skill checks when already in the high tiers. Right now you already have a buddy helping you, been helping you out, playing drums back behind you while you're making your performance check, so you're never rolling ones anyway, or at least 1 in 400 times you're rolling ones, and every other time you're rocking a 16, 17 plus just off your modifiers alone. And for those mathematical reasons, and because of how they've shrunk the DCs of 5th edition to, again, really be capped out at like 25 and 30, you're not going to be faced in circumstances where you're looking at DCs you can't already consistently beat. That, I think, is the big problem with Glibness.
I'm a little confused with the proficiency bonuses and all that. How does that work? Because the text of the spell says you replace the number you roll with a 15.
So what'll happen is
Right.
whenever you determine an outcome, you roll a
Yes.
d20, and then after you roll the d20, you will add modifiers to it. So in this particular case, you would roll the d20, and you would see I got a 3. You replace that 3 with a 15, and then you add the modifiers on top of it. So if you have a plus 10 to your persuasion check from 5 from your proficiency bonus, 5 from your charisma, you will have a floor of a 25 on every single charisma check you make for the rest of the time. Bards with Glibness have a flat 30 at least minimum. They're getting on all their expertise based charisma checks, which again, as it's kind of Bard's shit dick, is gonna be most of the checks most of the things they've chosen for their expertise.
Okay, I'm reading this again. You replace the number you roll. So, all right, yeah, it's not a 15. It's as if you rolled a 15, and then you get to add all your bonuses and stuff. Okay, we're on the same page now. All right. Now I was thinking about that the whole time, so I wasn't really paying attention to anything else you said.
I talk a lot about math.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's why this is bad. Ultimately, it's why that I think again, if you're a warlock and a plus 10 isn't good enough, I guess Glibness is something you take. If you're a warlock that isn't like, there can definitely be builds where you don't necessarily commit a lot to your charisma modifier and you don't take charisma skills. They're not common, but you can play warlocks like that. Then Glibness can be I can also double as the face of our party when we need to. Which sure, that's fine, I guess. It's still, for an 8th level slot, probably not worth it. You'd probably rather be doing like a big, powerful encounter warping effect or world-changing effect. You probably like controlling people's minds at this point, or making giant areas of damage, or just having a larger impact on the world around you than just I'm really good at talking to people. I don't know. It's really hard to justify for what is something that characters can do better without it. Not even necessarily better, but like as good at least without it.
Right. There's just making good charisma checks. I just don't feel like they're that common a thing to where this is worth an 8th level slot.
It's like it comes into this problem, right, where you have to ask, okay, what would I need to roll to change someone's opinion on something they devoutly believe in? So it'd be like, I'm talking to the deity of goodness, and I want him to or deity of lawfulness, and I want him to let us all off for doing some very chaotic thing. I would need a 40 plus to get them to, like, in their brain reroute this, but there might be some instance where your DMs are going to be like, there is no reasonable DC that'll change their mind. And in which case, that's honestly going to be the outcome for a lot of kinds of skill checks. There are some things that are just impossible, right? Like you can't jump off a building without a fly speed and say, I fly, and make a good enough athletics check that it happens. You might jump pretty far, but you're still going to hit the ground. And that's the same with charisma checks. There is a ceiling. There is a specific, like you can't just be like, hey, perfectly happy individual, go jump off the roof because it'll be fun. There's going to be a ceiling there where no reasonable individual is going to do that, right? And you can't roll a 40 and all of a sudden magically it's overtaken in their brain and they go and do it. And that's going to be another big reason why this isn't that good.
Yeah, the question is, how big is the window between the effectiveness of this spell and that ceiling?
Yeah,
and I think it's pretty narrow.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. It's not a lot of wiggle room. For how powerful I think this reads, saying minimum 15 seems really powerful. The actual outcome and effect is just really bad. Like, it's really lackluster. You don't need it on the characters that get it. I'm inclined to say the spell is uncastable. Like, that's where I think I land on it.
Something we haven't addressed much is the lying thing. You can lie and get away with it. I don't know. To me, that feels like more. It might come up more.
I actually agree. I do think it'll come up more, even if it's infrequent. Here's the problem with that. Zone of Truth is a 2nd level spell, and Dispel Magic as a 3rd level spell will prevent that from happening. So if you need a lie, the really only thing that's going to make you... There are going to be 2 things that make you unable to tell lies, and they're going to be really powerful Celestials and Zone of Truth. And really powerful Celestials are by far the least common enemy type. By far, players aren't going out killing Solars most of the time. Players aren't going out and killing Divas. The big bad, maybe a demonic angel, it might be Zerial or something from Avernus. It is almost never some upper planar, super haughty, goody two-shoes angel. There aren't a lot of evil campaigns running around where killing an angel is the objective, right? So the instances where you're going to be in that circumstance and need to lie to God, we're in that tier where it might come up, but like, most of the time it's going to be a Zone of Truth. And if it's a Zone of Truth, you just be like, I'm not talking to that. I'm disabling it.
But on the flip side, though, disabling a Zone of Truth makes you look a little suspicious.
Is that worth an 8th level spell slot to not look suspicious?
No.
Especially whenever you can just be like, use flowery language and skirt around the truth, which is a way more fun Zone of Truth experience, if we're going to be honest. Like, if your character's really good at lying and deception, you can definitely weasel your way around with some clever word placement to not necessarily tell a lie, but definitely obfuscate the truth.
Sure. I agree 100%. You got a rating for this one?
I'm going to go with 1. I think the spell is bait. I think the spell is actively bad for the game.
Yeah, I am not going to disagree this time. No optimism here. I went into this one with a bad attitude, and you did not attempt to change my mind. So, yeah,
once again,
1 it is.
commenters, viewers, tell me how I'm wrong. I really do. Or tell me how I'm right. Maybe this one you agree with me on. Maybe Glibness, you cast it and you're like, wow, this was a waste of my time because I got a 45 on a DC 15 charisma check. Like, I don't know.
Whatever you got to say. I welcome the comments. All right, that was Glibness. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.